It had been a couple of weeks since we found out that the old sandpit was open, so once again we were back at the Tim Ho's in Hawkesbury. And on this particular ride, it was going to be Chris and I, but we were also going to be joined by new guy Chris, as well as someone that we'd met through the web named Marc, who was on an 1150GS. So that 1150GS is not Joe. And after some introductions were made, we mounted up and headed off to the sand. One of the nice things about the modern world is that you can be put in contact with people with similar interests through the magic of the internet. The downside is you don't really know who these people are, so I must admit that every time I ride with someone that I've met this way, I'm a little bit apprehensive. Usually we have a bit of a back and forth on email, but still you don't really know what that person's going to be like, and you don't really know how they're going to fit into the dynamic of your group. And at this point our group has been riding together for 3 years, and Chris and I have gotten to know each other pretty well. The new guy Chris, we'd only ridden with him probably for a grand total of 10 minutes a couple of weeks ago, and Marc was a totally unknown quantity. But after our initial chat at the Tim Hortons, he certainly came across as a really nice guy and had quite a background in motorcycling. But I guess the proof would be in the pudding, and what better way to find out if we were all going to get along than to head back to where it all began, at the sandpit. As we made our way down the trail, one thing became quite apparent, and that was that Marc, who I'm following here, certainly had some experience riding off-road because he was handling that big 1150GS quite well. He had shown us just before we left that it was upgraded with some brand new Elka suspension, which is actually made in Quebec, Canada, not too far from Montreal. So that was one good sign, was that he certainly seemed to know how to throw that machine around. It had been relatively dry for quite a few days, but once we get into the shady bits, it's usually wet in here on this trail. And of course, we got to the spot where Joe debeaked his 1150GS, and where I had fallen on my F800GS just a few weeks before, and Marc threw the 1150 down the road. There's something about this spot that doesn't like big GS bikes. I don't know if it's an ancient Japanese bike burial ground. Marc went down, didn't seem to be hurt, and I could just tell by his attitude he wasn't all that upset by it, which I also took as a very good sign.
See this spot? This spot is like crash central for us. Right?
I'm good.
That tree right there, that rock,
Yeah?
that's where Joe ripped the beak off his 1150 on this same greasy little spot. And last week, I landed right there in the woods, coming back. Just something about this greasy little, no, it's right up there. Yeah, this greasy little spot is like...
Hey, can you even see where...
well, yeah, because that's it. That's how I crashed last time. I tried to stay up out of the slime,
Yeah.
and I slid down into the trough. Hey, righty. Whoops, that is slippy. There we go.
She's goopy, all right.
Everything good?
There's one flasher.
Oh, yes. Uh-oh. Ugh.
I'll throw that in the pocket.
We always pack out our trash.
Absolutely. I think the back one might have taken a hit too.
Yep. Just bent the bracket though.
That's good.
That was pretty spectacular.
Well, I try to do good ones. I'll try going back that
Yep.
way.
Ya-da-dee-da. I was just about to say that I thought Marc was going pretty fast for a guy on K60s on the slippery stuff.
We got Marc's bike turned around, and we figured with another turn signal sacrificed to the motorcycling gods, we'd probably be okay for the rest of the day. One thing you may have noticed is that when we ride with new people, I like to ride in the back. Not just so that it makes for more interesting video because I have someone in the frame, it also lets me see kind of where they're at in terms of their riding level, and it also makes it a lot harder for them to crash into me, which is another bonus.
All roads lead to Rome. That's probably the good one, yeah.
Gotta admit, I'll always have a soft spot for the R1150GS. I had one for 10 years, and I'm ashamed to admit that I very rarely did anything off-road. I had it more set up as a touring bike, and it was only after I sold it to Joe and bought my F800GS that I got a chance to really ride it a few times off-road, and it's amazing how competent these big bikes are, especially if you get some real tires on it. Marc up ahead here is running some K60s, which are okay. I mean, I've seen some guys do some pretty impressive stuff with K60s, but get some TKC 80s or something even a little more aggressive on one of these 1150s, and if it's not too soft, certainly, it's amazing what these big bikes can do. I actually found that in some situations on gravel roads, that it was almost nicer than the F800GS in terms of stability. And I don't know if that's just the Boxer lower center of gravity or if it's the telelever suspension, but certainly until the going gets really tight and technical, the 1150GS can get it done. They made the 1150GS for quite a few years, and now that they're getting a bit long in the tooth, the prices on used ones has also dropped, so they're very reasonable, and surprisingly there's still quite a few out there with low mileage. Henrik picked up one a couple of years ago that was under 20,000 kilometers, I believe, so there's still those poser specials to be found.
There's a few drop-offs, so if you don't really know what's on the other side, don't drive over it.
Okay.
There's a few drop-offs,
Okay.
so if you don't know what's on the other side, don't go over.
Damage has already been repaired.
All you need is a little adjustment on the old throttle. It's a little sticky. That'll loosen some stuff.
Custom turn signal. The exact same spot I crashed last week.
Where?
Near Joe's spot.
Really? The same
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been told it's the crash spot.
It's the crash spot for big bikes. Because you see it and you go, that's no big deal. Just a little greasy.
My tires are a little soft.
You didn't put air in.
No, I forgot.
What are you running?
17 and 14 or something silly like that.
Excellent traction, avoid rocks. Good morning.
Good morning.
And?
And
Your bike didn't crash and you have air in the tires?
that's right.
There's always one of those
ahead of
guys. There's always
Those are always good things.
There's always some a-hole on every ride.
It's almost like I prepared beforehand.
Almost. Fine adjustment for BMW motorcycles.
Thing of beauty?
Not quite. It's a little straightening is needed.
Ah.
Fine adjustment. Fine tuning. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Doesn't he look like a circus freak on that thing? Jeff! Find a gear. It's got a rev limiter, right?
No.
Doesn't?
No.
Just valves?
Just valves that pop out.
Are they titanium at least?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now they are.
Because those are expensive.
Yeah. At least.
At least they're expensive. They don't have a
He
rev
doesn't-
limiter? Seriously?
No, but he doesn't rev it even.
No, I know he
close
doesn't
to,
get close, but-
What I rev it at.
I'm just surprised. I thought like all the electronic ignition bikes these days would have had a rev limiter.
No. Oh no.
No? Huh. It's just your wallet. Your wallet is
Your
the rev.
brain. Your brain. Yeah.
Well,
Oh shit! I should have downshifted.
There we go. You got something here.
you know what it is? He's got flippers for feet. That's part of the problem.
Oh, he's gone there.
See, that's his. I have a 1200cc dirt bike gear.
Don't mess with me.
Shit! Downshift!
Yeah, he's like,
No. See, he's got big bike syndrome. He's not used to like going over 5,000 RPM.
so how bad did we?
Oh, I just gotta tweak this thing. Oh, that looks better now. It's just binding on the throttle a little bit. So now I gotta find the pieces that I dropped.
And personally, you're all good.
Oh yeah. Tuck and roll, tuck and roll. I lost the spacer.
Yeah, it's just idle speed. Lugging it!
Yeah, I find it.
Well, look at your feet.
Yeah. Those are duck feet. Like those are huge. What size? 13?
13 metric.
But holy shit, you can turn
Oh, you're driving?
at almost any speed
Yeah, that's what.
in almost any terrain, and you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's what scares me about going to a bigger bike.
No, you have to give up all that. There's none of that.
The safety.
There's none of that turning.
The safety
It's
issue is
weird, though. I
gone.
ride this, and I get off.
All right, Chris, are you gonna try one of our bikes today?
I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
It's a little too mushy for me right now.
Mushy?
Try it on the Scotch Road.
It's never been
Yeah,
this
it's
dry
not-
in
yeah, there.
history. Just pedal down here. And the nice thing is, once you try it, you won't want to buy one. That's going to save you a lot of money.
Yeah.
They all say yes.
You can pay us for the.
Yeah,
Actually,
exactly.
my wife would probably do that.
She's the one who called me, said, get him a test ride. We don't want to buy one of those.
Yeah.
I have children.
Well, my son told me, because yesterday I was on the fence about coming, and he's like, Dad, you always talk about getting an adventure,
It
Yeah.
dampens the
you
sound.
know, and he says, why don't you do some adventuring?
Oh, the spacer.
Look at that, look at that. Springback, haven't had that in years and years and years.
Good.
My wife keeps saying I don't have enough springback.
Well, what is it? I may not be as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Right.
That's a country song, actually.
Sounds good.
I had brought along my selfie stick, and I threw the GoPro up there to start playing with it.
I don't know if you're getting anything with that.
It's all gold. Well, it's 170-degree field of view, right?
New guy Chris was a little curious when we were organizing this ride why we always answered emails so late at night.
Notice you answer your emails really late at night. Is there a reason for this? It's the only you time you get?
Exactly. That's me time.
Okay.
So
He's still up.
I'm going to go over to the steep climb.
You want me to film it?
No, I want you to ride up it. I'm going to film it.
I'll film it, you break it.
I'll film it.
Just don't get in the way, because when I rocket shit up that, it really comes up like, it's pretty steep, and I have no control on where I land.
Got it.
Generally, I have no control.
We're not talking about bowels.
Decided to get some action shots of people coming up one of the steeper embankments. Here's Chris on the HP2. Love that sound.
as pie.
Then it was new guy Chris on the 525's turn. It was a little bit hard to frame these shots just right with the GoPro on the end of the selfie stick.
Take two.
Player Marc was nice enough to man the handy cam.
I got that one.
I've said it before, and I've said it again, it's kind of hard to capture how steep a hill is when you're watching it on video, especially with a GoPro. But this was quite a steep little ramp we were using here.
He's gonna spray me. That's why I got into motorcycling, because I'm lazy.
Chris forgot to bring water, so he was at my mercy.
As Riley squirts in his face.
Then it was my turn on the F800. First attempt, no air, just a little bit of spray.
So what do we think of that? I think you're gonna need to impress us a little bit more than that.
Well, I couldn't let that stand, so back I went. Even the F800 sounds pretty good here.
Nice! Earthquake down there.
That was better.
Yeah, the first time you go, you're a little...
That was better.
This time I decided I had to give it maximum chicken.
Now that was a proper jump.
That was fucking sweet.
The Russian judge gives a 10.
That was a lot better.
Fucking nice, man.
That was a good.
Not as fast as I want to go. That was sweet.
That was about a good foot and a bit.
We all agreed we'd had enough sandpit frivolity for one day, so we decided to head off and do a local road not far from here that also had a smaller sandpit on it. Once again, I was tail end Charlie, this time riding behind new guy Chris. I was also starting to get the feeling that any initial fears I might have had about my new riding companions were being put aside. Everybody was getting along, and they genuinely seemed like some good eggs. All the bikes from Germany even managed to make it past the accursed spot without sacrificing any more plastic. So that was a good sign, I think, that the day was unfolding nicely. At one point, we got separated by a red light from new guy Chris. So gave old Chris the signal to pull over and wait a second.
I don't see Chris too.
Chris too didn't know the way, so we thought it might be a good idea not to lose him.
There he is. Okay.
One thing I try to keep in mind when I'm riding with people that I haven't ridden with before is that you can kind of get lulled into a false sense of security. I've ridden with Chris long enough to kind of be comfortable with what his reactions are going to be to things. And when you ride with someone you've never ridden before, it's probably not a bad idea just to leave a little more space and not assume that they're going to do what you would ordinarily do. Here we are crossing the bridge from Ontario back into Quebec. And one thing we've learned about this bridge is that it's beautiful, it's wide, and early in the morning there's no traffic, but quite frequently a member of the local constabulary will be waiting on the other side. And I have paid the price once already, so we tend to stick to the limit. One of the things I like about this road is that it very gradually eases you into the dirt. You start on this relatively new beautifully smooth asphalt. And then that transitions into more of a 2-lane country road with lots of patches and a little bit of gravel in the corners. And eventually it turns into a pretty well-groomed gravel road. And that eventually, once you cross this last little bridge, turns into a little more of a rough and tumble road. And then at some point it's more of a trail you'd want to have at least a high ground clearance vehicle on. So it gently eases you into the spirit of off-road riding. We eventually came to what we call the Little Sandpit, and this was another spot where years ago climbing that first hill seemed incredibly difficult. And not that we don't fall regularly doing it now, depending on how soft the sand is. But this is another spot, I think, that'll always be dear to the hearts of the original Awesome Players members. Usually when we spot that first clearing, we try to gun it up the hill. Oh, hit a little rock there, got off course. Now you're spinning. Missed the shift. Stalled it. Take a bow.
I'll let you do the heavy part. Thank you, sir.
I thought I'd better loop around and give it another shot. Sand was quite loose and fluffy today. Nice to spin it up in second.
Woo!
A while back, a new trail started emerging up to the left that had a really nice steep climb. So I decided to give that a shot. Down into first. Oh, blew it. See, if you care about your paint job, this is not what you want to be doing. I wasn't doing too well this morning in terms of making it up these things on the first try, so this time I decided to approach a little slower and get properly lined up. Made it that time. There's another nice trail that goes up the right-hand side of the pit, and then I decided to try and turn left. And once again, I was on my butt.
Let's see some hill climbing here, Phil. Spin it.
Chris was also having fun on the HP2. Second gear.
I'm pretty convinced if you get that thing into second, it'll climb anything. That HP2.
It's a nice long bike, so it's stable.
Thing just has traction.
Even looks like a regular sized bike with Chris on it. Now Chris is going to try that steep climb on the left. Now he made that look way too easy.
Yeah.
I think Chris, too, was also enjoying his first exploration of our little sand pit. This sand pit also acts as a gateway to a whole network of trails. Marc has a cottage not far from here, so he's pretty familiar with all of these areas, but Chris, too, had never been down these. And we actually hadn't been back here in quite some time. This lake is called Black Lake, and frequently you'll find people camping here and fishing.
Hey guys, ciao.
This is also the lake, if you've watched our early videos, where we spent a lot of time playing in the water, because this road basically just goes into the lake and then comes out the other side. So I was tail end Charlie, and as we approached the end of the dry portion, I could see everybody had pulled over to kind of contemplate what to do. I'd already made up my mind that I was just going to go straight across. You could see how deep the water was because it was nice and clear, and the F800 has very high air intakes. On the right hand side you can see the black water. I don't know how deep that is, but it's deep. And actually, it was a little deeper here than I thought. If you look over the windshield, every now and then you can get a glimpse of my front fender, and that's underwater. The problem here was actually traction. The rear wheel was spinning. I started going off to the right, and I did not want to get into that dark water on the right. A little clutch feathering going on here, trying to keep it from spinning up. Problem with the F800 is once it starts spinning, it likes to spin. After watching my crossing, everyone was pretty convinced that perhaps trying the muddy bypass along the shore was probably going to be a better idea. You can see here the water's not so crystal clear anymore after my wheel spin. Chris took the bypass. He has very low air intakes on that HP2. Despite the bike being so tall, the air intake is just above the right cylinder and it's not very high. Chris, too, on the 525 was also taking the bypass. Little wheelie action. Then it was Marc's turn on the 1150. Air intakes are a bit low, but he chose a good line. That very distinctive starter motor noise from the 1150 series bikes.
That's the thing though, it changes all the time.
Well, the ATV guys, because there was no bypass really. ATV guys have chewed one in.
I was on the other side yesterday, and on the DRZ I said, no, I'm not going through that. Bigger than I'd ever seen it.
Oh man.
Well, we got to go take a look just so we know we can't do it.
After the lake, there's another long stretch of water, and I could tell by just the amount of water that was on the road here that that water level was going to be high. Normally this area might have tiny little puddles.
Holy shit.
I think there's a lot of beaver dam action here, so discretion being the better part of valor, I decided to take a look.
It's deep, eh?
There's a pipe up ahead. Normally a good chunk of that pipe is sticking out of the water, and today it was almost entirely submerged. There was a lot of water up ahead. The reconnaissance revealed that this was probably not going to be a good idea. So back we went.
What is that little trail on the right of the bypass?
I tried it once with Henrik.
Nothing?
Shit fest.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me get to the others. Wait till I get there and get the camera out. Okay? Hey, Chris?
Yeah.
Wait till I get the camera out.
This time we all decided to take the bypass, myself included. Once again on the 800, the best way to modulate power is really not so much with the throttle, but with the clutch.
Shit. That's pretty nasty.
Now, if you get too far off track here to the left, it can actually be quite deep. I learned that the hard way.
It's a lot easier when there's no sediment. You couldn't see fuck all. That's why I like to go first.
Why I snuck in first. No fault, Chris. We don't want to go in there.
He's flooded out the HP2 here before.
Yeah.
I can hear Chris slipping some clutch here as well. The nice thing with the HP2 is it'll tell you via smell if you're slipping too much clutch.
The first, the true water-cooled GS. Are you moist?
No. My heel is a tiny, tiny bit wet.
Crotch?
As I mentioned earlier, Marc had a cottage not too far from here, so he knew this area quite well. He was nice enough to invite us all over to his place for a cold one, so he went out front and offered to lead us on a little bit of ride and maybe even show us a few trails we didn't know about. We were going at a pretty good clip. This would be about the speed I'm comfortable with on a trail that I'm not familiar with. Marc up ahead on the 1150GS with the Elka suspension didn't seem to be having any issues keeping this pace. And every now and then when I got a glimpse of him up ahead of Chris, I could tell that he was riding along really comfortably just by his body position. Once again confirming my earlier suspicions that this guy knew how to ride.
Yeah, it's been a while though. A while.
One of the trails Marc took us down did look familiar. I think it was on one of the routes for the Classique a few years ago. Although I seem to remember it having quite a bit more water when we did it the last time. And eventually, after 20 minutes or half an hour or so, we ended up at Marc's cottage on a little lake. Marc had a very sweet setup here. It was a very small lake with a few cottages. His cottage was in a very private little nook. So we sat around and talked motorcycles and trails and life and everything else. Then it was time to say our goodbyes. After saying our goodbyes, we mounted up and headed home.
Took me a long time with a belt sander to get that.
Marc had given us some directions on the best way to get out of the area and find our way home. And this was another trail that I remember being on as part of one of the classiques. Chris asked me if I thought it was going to be deep. Of course, I wasn't going first, so I said no. Some of the areas were a little deeper than I thought they might be, but with Chris up in front, you know if he can make it with that low intake, the F800's not going to have any issues.
My foot's wet.
If you do a lot of the riding like we did today with the farting around in Black Lake and this kind of stuff, one thing you should be comfortable doing is changing wheel bearings. At first it seems kind of potentially a little bit of an intimidating process, but then once you have the right tools you realize you can change all 5 wheel bearings on an F800GS in about an hour, so then it really stops being a problem. Just don't buy your wheel bearings at the BMW dealership. Head down to a bearing supply company and you'll be pleasantly surprised at how affordable it is. They come in a box of 10 for the 800, so buy a box and you've got enough for 2 complete changes. Chris and I pooled our emergency money and actually had enough to turn on the tire inflation pump at the gas station. In theory, we all keep a couple of bucks on our bikes in case of emergency. But it always seems to make the transition into the beer fund. Chris is very finicky about what pressure his tires are kept at.
30?
Good.
I like 27.
Alright.
Let's.
Shoot it straight home.
Yep.
You guys hit the home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You?
At one point you guys will lose because you'll be going too fast.
Yeah, no problem.
So,
We are law-abiding citizens.
yeah, okay. Take it easy, buddy. Next time. Nice riding with you.
We're going next Sunday, I hope.
Sorry?
Next Sunday, I hope.
Yeah? Let me know.
Okay, cool.
In the
Send.
loop.
We'll drop you an email.
Okay. If you have any video you want to send my way, that'd be great.
Okay, cool.
We said our goodbyes to Chris too and headed home. It turned out to be a pretty nice ride. Chris too and Marc were really nice guys and certainly didn't have any trouble keeping up with us. And it was nice to show them some of our favorite old spots. It was also nice to have a few more numbers in the Rolodex so that when you want to go for a ride and your regular compatriots aren't available, you'll have a few more options. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button here on YouTube. And also subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and then when a new video comes out, you'll be notified right away. If you want to be involved in some of the chatter that we have going on, head over to our Facebook page. I'll put that link at the end of the video, as well as in the description down below. Or you can just go to Facebook and search for Awesome Players, and you shouldn't have any trouble finding us. If you have any questions or comments, leave them here, or head over to Facebook and ask us anything you want over there. And once again, thanks for watching another adventure of the Awesome Players Off-Road Motorcycle Club.